This is the introduction to Module 4, Disseminating Qualitative Fieldwork. I realize I should have done this for each of the modules. Live and learn. Anyway, it has 3 parts, sharing the story, writing a dissertation, and visual representations, typologies, and taxonomies. What is most critical for us? Oh my Jesus. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. You can see the due dates for it. The checklist is all up to date. Thanks again to Kathy for that, drafting it out. I just want to do a quick once-over of what this topic is about. If you remember the 4 modules overall, I'm sorry if this is making your head spin. In the beginning, we had the introduction to qualitative fieldwork. Secondarily, prelude to qualitative fieldwork, right? The third step is processing qualitative fieldwork, and the final step is dissemination of qualitative fieldwork. It's a great 4-part harmony that most methods books that I've read are chopped into, and it follows the similar process of your writing, where it's going to, what you're going to need when. I'm also mindful of the fact that you guys want a preview on the comprehensive exams, and I want to include that here. The comprehensive exams are going to be on everything in the syllabus, so there you go. I don't wish to do that to you. That sounds unfair, frankly. I'm going to put my timer on here because I know I can't go over 15 minutes. If I do, YouTube won't let me publish. So, but let me briefly talk about what the last module is about, okay? Module 4, okay, disseminating, telling the story, right? In the beginning, there are just some simple Bailey chapters to read. It looks like a lot, but it's not really. All the Bailey chapters are simple, short, brief, to the point, targeted at an undergrad audience, I would say. Much to the credit of Bailey's good writing. But you can see field notes and leaving the field, that's chapter 8. Chapter 10, the typologies, taxonomies, how you can make your data look better, basically. And then there's an important caveat there that if all you think you're doing is making it look better and not improving communication of your data and hence your story, you have something to learn in that chapter. Chapter 11, evaluation criteria for a final manuscript. Is it good enough? Should I buy an editor, etc.? And the last thing, chapter 12, both these links are the same, 11 and 12. Both these storytelling, critical events, and analytic induction. That's kind of her conclusion, which you read earlier. So the first part is the first article and the only real content for this module, frankly. This is a very short module for processing, right? Is Michael Watts' The Holy Grail in Pursuit of the Dissertation Proposal, right? Now, partially, he's writing this for the notion that you can't do research unless you get a big grant. And so part of it, he's trying to make this thing, your first 3 chapters, the hottest thing ever so that you can get, this great grant to pay for it. And you guys, for the most part, don't need a grant. We don't offer grants, so, but it's still very good in terms of, what you need for your pre-defense, the target of your pre-defense. If you've got your first 3 chapters solid at your pre-defense, your dissertation is just, 4 months later, basically. It's that easy. Sometimes the first 3 chapters are rough and we have to end up reworking them to some extent with the students occasionally. So you really want that it's not really a dissertation proposal, but you really want the first 3 chapters solid for your pre-defense, which is, you do like a semester before your actual dissertation defense. Okay. And that's kind of what the motivation behind reading this article is. there is going to be an activity linked to it from Shell, and I've got here in the Dropbox some other PowerPoints that's been used previously by people. Then I have the next reading is Becker. It's an entire book, but I'm not requiring you to read it today. Actually, I want you to read it a year from today, okay, when you're about to start writing your dissertation. That would be a great time to read this book. If you read it now, I'm too afraid, because you're working on all your other final assignments and everything, I'm too afraid you're not really going to give it its due. Or if you're a fast reader, read it now with the remembrance, the reminder to read it one more time in 1 year, at the advent of writing your dissertation. I've got a link to the entire book right here, which is great. It's free, as it were, 150 pages or something. I have a nice little summary of it here as well. But the best thing, and again, as you can see right here, I am not requiring you to do anything more for this course below this line, okay? I don't even want you to, I'm not even requiring that you read Becker's book this semester, okay? Because again, I don't want you to get too ahead of yourselves, frankly. I just want you to leave a serious placeholder in yourself to read this. You owe it to yourself to read this book when you're about to start, you're writing your dissertation. What I do expect is you at the very least to watch my little 10-minute video. I just generated a video describing the book, describing its value. I kind of went through my little Becker summary that I built off of somebody else's summary that's very geared towards you guys, the folks in this doctoral program. But the last part of the, part C of this module is the visual representation stuff. Basically, what I did here is I went beyond this Bailey Chapter 10, which is kind of, the as far as you normally go for the traditional normal thing. But I went a little further with this idea, just because when Bailey wrote this, she wasn't aware of how fast HTML is going to go and how much the speed of the nature of our content affects our content, in terms of delivery and stuff like that. But it gets into stuff like big data and how you can use big data potentially, in telling a story. And so you can see here, I have this nice thing from column 5 media, the 5th column, like the rebels, right? They're trying to say that, they're a public relations firm, which is like, oh, we don't like them, right? We're scholars. Well, not anymore. It's kind of what I'm getting at with this third part here. But I leave it to you. If you want to be more of a traditionalist, if you're afraid to be, a little more out there, or if you just really want to get this thing done and concise and, bare minimum in terms of visual representations of data, aim for a flowchart, indexing your theoretical framework, and we'll call it quits, okay? But again, if you want to go beyond, that's kind of what what I'm talking about here, okay? The rest of these things. And there's a couple of nice info links. If we were in class, I think I could, do some fun presentations with this, because it's very visually captivating, the kind of things that at least this guy has done. So just watch, at the very least, watch he's got a YouTube clip somewhere here. TED Talk. I think this link here is his TED Talk. Yeah, it says TED Talk. It's a really great 15-minute thing to show you the kind of things that could wow you in terms of the era that we're in now, where data is so accessible and there's so much of it that it's no longer interesting. In fact, it's blinding. What you need to do now is take big data and turn it into knowledge on the fly. And sometimes it takes some software, sometimes not. But that's kind of where we're going in terms of current research. And it's very applicable, I think, definitely to all of the assessment numbers that are being generated in the K-12 environment. Building flowchart things, movable pieces like this that you can do with like software like Tableau, which Fresno State has a site license for, and things like that, can be very effective in terms of communicating and analyzing your actual data. But again, this is more for you to dabble. The last part This last column here is just complete and absolute shameless advice. If you think I have anything worthwhile to say to you, in terms of helping you, finish your dissertation, that's kind of what these following little tidbits are from. But I must say, in defense of myself, I have wasted a lot of time learning how not to waste time. I've read almost all of the management books there are out there in terms of, getting stuff done, work stress. In fact, I present in our business college on campus every year, twice every semester, to the business majors for the most part, productivity techniques, which this is typically the kind of stuff that they write, the org psych management stuff. But I'm the one selling it to the business majors because I read so much about this. And you could say it's a great way to waste time. Rather than do, you could write about doing, read about doing, present about doing. Anyway, I speak from some bit of authority here when I say there's a couple of different approaches. I've dabbled in all of them, and some that are best for scholars are the ones that are out here. This Fiore book is a little more psychological. In fact, he himself is a psychologist, and he worked in the Bay Area with a lot of doctoral students. So he's speaking to a lot of people who are finding themselves unproductive. But some of his very students are people like I have been. I think it was like a 7-month writing block. Now, mind you, I was in the middle of having a kid, and the dissertation was not really on hold, but I had a leave because I was in the field for 3 years. But still, that cost me a year to graduate. That writer's block, I had to graduate the following year. So it didn't cost me money-wise, like it will cost you, I'm sorry to say. But the point is, there are helpful habits, ways around it. Okay, I mentioned this in another video, so I'm not going to mention it. Overall productivity, this is a classic, this Getting Things Done book. It's more the business types, the anal retentive, and they got the app that does it, and I have all of those apps and everything. I'm still behind, late, and but at least now I know exactly how late and behind I am, right? The last one, this is just a simple one for email management, which, if it works, use it, right? Finally, my last thing here is more the kind of anthropologist I am, that you don't have to read it all. This is more, if you want to know somebody, know their teacher. So this was written by my instructor, and I helped him with it a bit. So I don't know if I'm cited in there or not. Probably not. But the point is, anthropology has a lot to say about education. This course was all about qualitative methods, so I wasn't really heavy on the anthropological voice. But in all honesty, that is where I'm at. That is the kind of stuff I do. The confluence of, culture, education, and anthropology is me. Ethnography of the classroom is another way to describe it. Where the family, the state, and the school find themselves in struggle, that's where you'll find me. Just as my little postscript, I guess. Okay, now as I was saying, lastly, on the comprehensive exams, how best to prepare for it, what I think I'm going to do is do one more little brief video on that thing. So with that, I bid you adieu.